Alex Hormozi has an ad library with over 700 active ads running right now. Not 700 total, 700 active. And most business owners I talk to are running 4, maybe 5, and they wonder why their cost per lead keeps climbing. I just flew to Vegas and sat in a room with Alex and his team at their scaling workshop, and I walked out with a notebook full of stuff that immediately changed how we're advising our clients and how we're running our own business. So in this video, I'm giving you the 5 lessons that hit the hardest. No fluff, no vague mindset stuff, the actual mechanics of how the biggest operators scale. And I'm going to stick around at the end for a rapid fire Q&A on the stuff you're all going to ask me anyway about the workshop itself. So let's get into it. Quick context on why I'm even the guy making this video. I run a marketing agency, Nips Media, and day in, day out, my team and I are in the trenches on ad accounts, funnels, and offers for our clients. So when I go to something like this, I'm not going as a fan trying to take selfies. I'm going as an operator pressure testing my own playbook and our company's playbook against the people running at a level most of us only read about. A lot of what Alex teaches also, I already knew, to be honest. My team preaches half of it every single day. But that's exactly why it was so valuable, because some things are better reminded than taught. And when you hear a principle you already believe coming from someone operating 10 levels above you, it stops being a nice idea and becomes a true standard. It raises the ceiling on what you thought good even looked like. So a few of these are going to be concepts you may have heard before, but stay with me because the depth is the lesson. This is the difference between knowing something and actually operating like it's true and actually implementing it in your business. 5 lessons. Here's number 1. Let's go. This is a number I'm going to burn into your brain. 10 new ads for every $10,000 a month you spend on advertising. So if you're spending $20,000 a month, that's 20 fresh creatives in rotation every single week. $50,000 a month, 50 new ads a week. That's the pace. Now, my team and I talk to our clients about creative literally every single day. If you're a client of ours, you've probably heard it time and time again. More iterations, more variations, more unique angles. It's the drum we've been beating for years because creative is the lever nowadays. But in today's ad platforms, the algorithm is smarter than any manual targeting you're going to do. Your job isn't to out-target the machine. Your job is to feed it enough creative variety that it can go find the buyers that will buy from you. But here's where the workshop leveled me up. It's the sheer volume of output. 700 active ads. Think about what that actually requires as a machine behind the scenes. That's not a person making an ad when they feel inspired. That's a system, a conveyor belt of hooks, angles, formats, and offers produced on a schedule, whether anyone feels creative that day or not. And this is the mistake I see business owners make constantly. They make ads they like, ads that match their taste, their brand aesthetic, the thing that makes them feel good and that they would respond to. But that's really ego, not marketing. The goal isn't to make an ad you love. It's to make enough different angles and versions of ads that you speak to the accountant who buys for one reason and the mom who buys for a completely different reason and the skeptic who needs a third reason entirely. You are not the customer. Volume is how you find out what the customer actually responds to. So here's your action item. Stop asking, is this a good ad? Start asking, how many swings did we take this week? Set a creative quota, tie it to your spend, and hit it like it's payroll, because it is. And service businesses, this second one is for you. Tattoo it somewhere. Speed to availability. Here's a scenario you already know. Somebody books a call on your team's calendar, but the next opening is 2 days out, maybe longer, or maybe you had availability earlier, but somebody just booked a little bit farther out. So the call gets scheduled. Everyone moves on, and then the call comes up and they no-show. or they show up cold with zero interest. And you're sitting there wondering what happened after you booked a call, or why did you even book the call if you're so uninterested? Now, could it have been a bad lead? Sure, it very well could have. But sometimes but a lot. Now, could it have been a bad lead? Sure, it absolutely could have. But a lot of the time, that person didn't no-show because they were never interested. They no-showed because in these 2 days, they went and found another solution, or the pain that made them book in the first place just faded. Buying a tent has a half-life, and it is short, especially in the beginning. The longer the gap between I want help and I'm talking to somebody, the more that intent decays. The hack their team shared is really simple. The moment someone books, you send a text, something like, "Hey, I saw you just booked. I actually had a slot open up at the top of the hour. Any chance you're around to talk then instead?" That's it. You're collapsing the timeline. You're striking while the intent is still hot. And even when they can't talk at the top of the hour, which many times they won't be able to, it still works because now they're replying. They're saying, "No, but I'm free tomorrow at 2." You just turned a silent calendar booking into a live conversation, and you cut your no-show rate in the process. I actually experienced this one firsthand. When I booked an appointment with their team, they ran this exact play on me. And I caught it the way you catch a good magic trick. I knew what they were doing, and it still worked. That's the best endorsement I can give it. Here's the action item. Automate the top of the hour text on every new booking. And if you don't have somebody who's available for that, find a way to fix that so you can offer those earlier bookings. If you've got any kind of scheduler and a texting tool, you can build this today. Speed to availability. Now let's go on to the third thing that I learned at the event. And this is my favorite metaphor from the whole event. You know what your VSL is, right? Your video sales letter. Well, you want to be starting to think about this as a lead microwave. A cold lead is somebody who doesn't know you, doesn't trust you, and isn't ready to buy. A warm lead is somebody who gets it, believes you, and is leaning in. Normally, warming up a lead takes time. Nurture emails, follow-ups, multiple touch points, weeks of you slowly earning trust. A good, well-scripted VSL does that in minutes. It takes a cold lead and heats them up fast. That's where the microwave analogy comes from. You're compressing a warming process that used to take weeks into a single sitting. If your business doesn't have one, you need one. We already use this with a lot of our clients, but this workshop opened my eyes to more use cases. Not just at the top of the funnel to convert traffic, but mid-funnel to re-engage, and even post-booking appointments to pre-frame a call so people show up already sold or a little bit closer to it than they would have been before. But don't phone it in. Don't go generate a VSL script with a generic prompt and slap it up. A lazy, say-nothing VSL is worse than no VSL because it burns the lead instead of warming them. But here's the standard. Follow the 5 Ps and speak to the soul of your customer. And when I say the soul, I mean you have to know their fears, their frustrations, the thing they say to themselves at night when the business isn't working, and speak directly to that, not features. Not we've been in business 15 years, the soul. When a prospect feels like you're reading their mind, the sale is already halfway done. Here's your action item. Audit your funnel. Where's the point where leads go cold and slow? Put a real VSL there and write it or have it written to the soul, not to a template. Now let's talk lesson 4, let the smaller fires burn. This one is about focus, and it's the one most business owners get wrong, including oftentimes me. Let the smaller fires burn. Fix the biggest constraint first is the idea. That's the whole game. In any business, at any given moment, there is one thing that is holding back everything else, one bottleneck. And your job as the operator is to find it and pour your entire focus into that one thing, even if it means letting other smaller problems keep burning in the background. That last part is what makes it hard because we're wired to want everything clean and polished. We want to fix the annoying little thing because fixing it feels productive. But let me put real numbers on it so you can see how lopsided this can get. Say you're sending 1,000 visitors a month to a landing page that converts at 1.5%. That's 15 leads a month. There's a part of you that wants to grind on that page, tweak the headline, move the button, run little tests to push it from 1.5 to 2%. Let's say you win. You claw it up to 2. Now you've got 20 leads instead of 15. 5 extra leads. That's the prize for what could be weeks of fiddling. Now I'll run the other play. Leave the page exactly where it is at 1.5% and instead figure out how to spend 5 times more on ads. Your traffic goes from 1,000 visitors to 5,000. At that same 1.5%, that's 75 leads a month instead of 15. 60 extra leads, 60 versus 5. It's not close. One is a rounding error. The other is a different business. Now, obviously, you're spending more money to attract that higher level of traffic. So this makes most sense when the leads that you're getting are already profitable, but you see the biggest difference. The point isn't that conversion rate doesn't matter in this case. It's about sequencing of what you're fixing. You'll get to the landing page, but not while there's a 5x traffic opportunity sitting untouched because you were busy polishing a corner nobody was tripping on. So the discipline here is emotional as much as strategic. You have to be okay watching a small fire burn, knowing it's a small fire because you've made the call that your energy is worth more somewhere else right now. And here's the action item. Write down your top 3 problems this week. Now be honest about which one, if solved, makes the other 2 smaller or even irrelevant. That's your fire. Everything else needs to wait. Now let's talk about the final lesson, LTV to CAC. And I saved the most important one for last because this is the number that decides whether you get to play the game at all. Do you know your LTV to CAC ratio? Let me translate for anyone who needs it. LTV is lifetime value, what a customer is worth to you over the entire time they do business for you. CAC is customer acquisition cost, what it costs you all in to go get one of those customers. The ratio between these 2 numbers is the single most important number in your entire business. Almost every business owner I meet says they know those numbers. Far fewer can actually pull up the numbers and show me accurately. There's a huge gap between I have a rough idea and here it is. And this is not academic. This number is your permission slip to scale. If you don't know what a customer is worth compared to what it costs to acquire one, you literally do not know how aggressively you are allowed to spend. You're flying blind, either too scared to scale when you should be flooring it, or overspending your way into a hole you can't see yet. And most people don't stop at the surface version of this. Don't just look at lifetime revenue to CAC. Look at lifetime gross value to CAC, meaning after your cost to deliver. Because a customer might be worth $10,000 in revenue, but if it costs you $7,000 to fulfill, your real number is 3. And if you scaled based on the 10, you'd scale yourself right out of business. So the real question isn't what's my LTV to CAC? To go take it a step further, it's what's my gross LTV to CAC after the cost of actually serving that customer. That's the number that tells you the truth. Here's the action item, and this is the most important one in this whole video. This week, actually calculate it. Not a guess, pull the real numbers, average lifetime gross value, true all-in acquisition cost, and get the ratio. When you know that number cold, everything else in this video becomes safe to do at full throttle. Without it, you might just be gambling. All right, now let's go through some rapid fire. The questions I know you're going to leave in the comments, but we're going to do this fast. Did you actually meet Alex? Well, not one-on-one, no, but he spent a full session on day 2 doing a talk and a Q&A, so you got him live. And honestly, his team trains very similarly to him that it didn't really matter as much as you might have thought that Alex wasn't there and available the whole time. Ed, one of their directors, was absolutely incredible, by the way. I believe he's the leader of the workshop program. Same principles, same intensity. The system runs deep, not just the founder. And for me, that was actually really important because it was a great learning lesson of how a business can grow beyond just the founder that's making the content and in the forefront. Okay, question number 2 was, how was his facility? It was awesome. Genuinely a high-touch team. The food, the servers, everyone was on top of every detail, courteous, dialed in. The whole environment made you feel very welcomed, and it was a great experience. You could tell the standard they hold internally is the same standard they teach. Okay, big question I know I'm going to get, and I've already gotten from people that have seen that we were there. Is this only for big businesses? No. I was a small fish in a big pond in that room. And honestly, I prefer it that way, and you should too. That's the whole point of getting in rooms like this. You want to be the smallest one there. However, I will say that this workshop was definitely not designed for brand new businesses. They market it as being for the minimum is having $250,000 in gross revenue, and I would not advise going if you're under that. Did they pitch something? Next question. Yes, they pitched their full year program to work directly with their team, but it was not a hard sell. It was pretty clean and it did not feel pushy. I did not sign up, and that was a deliberate choice. For me, I was much preferring to go implement everything I just learned, then decide maybe later to do it if it feels right. Next question, was it worth the money? The cost was $5,000. For me, yes, it was worth it. One strategy or hack or tactic or relationship met at the event alone will pay that back inside, just a little bit of time. So for me, it was very well worth it. And the biggest thing to know is that if you're going to go there and you're going to invest the time and money to go out, you have to implement what you learn. You don't want to just go there, learn, get inspired, and then come back and do the same old stuff. That's my personal bar for being worth it. And what's the one thing to do first if you came home from this event? For me, it was calculate your gross LTV to CAC. That was the big thing, based off of lesson 5, because so many of what I talk about, advertising, marketing, scaling, etc., if you don't know these numbers, you could be scaling something that's not working, and you might need to fix another part of your model or offer first. The thing I keep coming back to ever since the trip is this. None of what I learned is a secret. It's execution at a level most people never actually commit to. That's the gap that I see. Not information, effort. So the big thing is to just go run some of these plays. And if you got something out of this video, please subscribe, because I bring back what's working at these high levels. And I love to break it down into moves that you could use every week. And on this channel, we talk about advertising, marketing, funnels, all of these types of things to help you grow your business. So drop your biggest takeaway in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.